I'm Larry Menti. Welcome to Jersey Matters. What is the business climate in New Jersey? And what is the climate and the outlook for the coming year? Well, there's an organization that does a survey on that every year, and this year there's room for optimism, but there's also some bad news. Michele Sierkerka is the CEO and president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. Thank you so much for being here. And so I was saying that this survey's done every year.
Yes, this year was our 57th year.
57 years doing it. And this year, as I said, there is some room for optimism, right?
There is. The outlook for 2016 is optimistic. Businesses tell us that they're looking forward to increasing sales profits, that they'll continue to create jobs in New Jersey, albeit slow and steady.
But still, compared to past years, I would think that's pretty good.
This is our third consecutive year of having positive results.
Well, then let me ask you this. How much of that is just wishful thinking?
Well, actually, so it's the third year that optimistically looking forward business feels good, but it's actually the third year that the results followed the optimism.
Does that happen almost always? I mean, does the outlook or the hope match what happens?
Well, what we have now is, this is 3 consecutive years post-recession, the first 3 in a row that we've had optimism. So the message is that the recession is now in the rearview mirror of New Jersey businesses.
That's interesting. It is interesting that the hopes and the expectations meet reality. That means that the businesses are doing their jobs pretty well in planning for the coming year.
Well, what it is that they feel that they can control what is within their purview. So the operations around their own business, the things that they can control, they feel optimistic. However, they're not so optimistic about things that are outside of their control. Things like taxes, mandates, cost of doing business. Oh
no, I was at the Chamber of Commerce Summit down in Atlantic City, and I heard from business leader after business leader after business leader about the tax climate in New Jersey and how they believe that was the biggest hindrance to business in New Jersey. Did that come through in your survey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of the top issues that comes up all the time. It's the overall cost of doing business, and that is complicated by the numerous taxes and the rate of taxes we have in the state of New Jersey.
And that begs the question, and this gets to the next point in your survey, if they are so optimistic about the coming year in New Jersey, why do they want to leave?
Well, we asked them this year, first time we asked for some long-term perspective. So we asked businesses 3 particular questions about their long-term outlook. We said that if you are going to, when you're doing your business planning, do you take into consideration estate and inheritance tax? About 2/3 told us yes. Now, we also asked them, if you were expanding your business tomorrow, would you do it in the state of New Jersey? About 2/3 of them told us no. And then the third was, we asked, will you make your domicile in retirement the state of New Jersey? And 2/3 of them told us no. That's a huge red flag. So they're looking 5 and 10 years down the road, and they're saying, I'm not going to be here in the future. Now, that validates research we've been doing at NJBIA on outmigration. So we've done a study of the last 10 years of IRS tax returns, and unfortunately the results tell us that we've lost over 2 million people in the last decade, and we've lost $18 billion in adjusted gross income. That's net results.
And no, I get that that's a bad thing. There's no way that can be good. And yet, when it comes to businesses, if they're talking about leaving when they retire, although we don't have the benefit of the money they saved and the money that they're spending and the things like the inheritance tax, it doesn't necessarily affect the business, does it?
Well, no, it does, because, and that's that first question I mentioned, that it's part of their business planning for the future. So in New Jersey, we have many generational businesses. I talk to business leaders every day, and a great story I got was down in South Jersey, where a gentleman, introduced me to his succession plan, which is his son. And he said, when I'm ready to transfer the business, I can choose to avoid and leave the state, and that's what I'm going to do, because I don't want to saddle my son with the loss of the business when he can't pay the estate taxes.
Oh, and is that a common story, or is that an outlier?
No, it's a recurrent theme. And here's the piece. You can choose to avoid by moving out before you die, right? So you can choose to avoid, and people are doing it. What the statistics we hear now when we say, oh, it's only 4,000 estates that get taxed every year, it's because those are the people who die here who didn't have the opportunity to either get out or they couldn't avoid. So when you can make a choice, you choose to leave. So think about this. That tax right now, just in its current state, is a deterrence for staying. So people think of it as a deterrence, and they take advantage of that, and they avoid by leaving.
But they don't move their business, right? I mean, you're talking about people moving after, when they're nearing retirement, or do they move their entire business out of
Yeah,
the state?
it's not just in retirement. Again, that's why those three separate questions. Okay. We absolutely have a retirement flee. But that starts around 50, 55. I mean, this is the data that we've been doing. The study that we did shows the numbers. So at or about 50 or 55, and these are folks who are saying, you know, if they could move their business, they do. Now, let's talk about businesses moving. Because at BIA, when we lose a member, you know, when we go and make that retention call, and what do we find? Business left, business closed down, or business merged. So there are businesses, unfortunately, leaving. Now, I don't want to be all negative because we got great businesses coming in, and we have a lot to offer. New Jersey is an outstanding state. People come here every day. We have quality of life. You make a good living here. We have an excellent workforce. We have the Jersey Shore. We're equidistant to two big cities and slap dab in the middle of the Northeast corridor. So we have a lot to offer, and we have businesses that come here. But we can't ignore the net out migration and what it is costing us every day to the state of New Jersey.
There is a net out migration, because the way you just phrased that, you said that companies were moving out, but companies were moving in, so you would think there'd be a nil effect, but you're saying there's a negative effect. How big?
Well, and again, the numbers we have, so that $18 billion out, and it depends how you go across the chart. I don't know the exact percentage in each area, but clearly more have left than have come in, because if we have an $18 billion net loss, that's the difference. The $18 billion is the net out. The other part, when someone leaves, those that are leaving, and they're taking, because they're leaving maybe in a later stage of their career or their business, they're taking their affluence, their spending power, their philanthropic giving, their taxable income. Unfortunately, the in-migration in dollars is a fraction of what the person going out is. So it's not that just the millionaires are leaving. All right, there's middle class people who are leaving, but those that are coming in, their income level is significantly below those that are leaving us.
There's a catch-22 to all of this, especially when you say the remedy, and I'm not saying you're saying this, but I would guess that you feel this way. The remedy is to fix the tax structure or to lower some of the taxes in the state to make it more business friendly, and yet when you have businesses leaving, the tax base gets lowered, and the knee-jerk reaction is to raise taxes to make up for the loss. And when you talk to some of the politicians in Trenton, they will tell you, look, we have nowhere to go with these taxes. We can't meet the budget right now. So I lay it on you. What do you suggest?
Well, we would suggest that if we start sending positive signals that we're going to bring tax relief, like phasing in of relief on the estate tax, pension tax, if we start sending signals that we're going to take those things seriously and bring relief, people will stop leaving. They say it every day. Okay, if my estate wasn't going to be taxed, I don't have to worry about my kids. If my pension's not going to be taxed starting at $15,000, I could stay here.
Because on its face, it seems economically irresponsible to lower taxes at a time when you have major budget problems, at least in the short term.
We need to bring relief because we need to stop the exodus. If you think of what you would have, if you had that $18 billion in the state of New Jersey, even a fraction of it that could have been taxed, that would be in the general fund. We might not have the issues that we have today. That's 1 decade of example that I gave.
So you're talking about taking a step back to make a bigger step forward.
Exactly, and you have to do it in a phased-in manner. But what I'm suggesting is, because these taxes are an inherent deterrent, because as people are looking forward and planning forward, they're saying, well, that will be either I'm going to get out. If we send the signal now, we'll slow the digression. And if we start phasing in some of that relief, we won't have such a, as you said, we won't have such a gap in between.
Thank you so much.
Thanks
for coming in. Michele Sierkerka, who is the CEO and president of the New Jersey Business and Industry Association. We have another survey coming up, and it's kind of related. It's about poverty in New Jersey. More on that when Jersey Matters continues.